Alvarez pretty much sacrificed Oscar Valdez to Shakur Stevenson to the NBF league, something that Canelo Alvarez himself is not willing to do. So to me, I looked at that as sacrificing, because how can Canelo ask Valdez to do something he's not willing to do? Canelo is not willing to fight Andre for undisputed for his biggest payday at the time. Canelo is not willing to fight Charlo for 45 million plus. Canelo is not willing to fight Errol Spence for 55 million plus, while he has to move up 3 different weight divisions. So if Canelo's not willing to fight the Charlo twins, the Andrades, the Fabulous Four of his time, why is Canelo telling Valdez to do the right thing? Meanwhile, he's not willing to do the right thing himself.
Exactly. And his reaction during the fight.
Exactly.
Reaction during the fight shows that.
Yeah, he looked lost. He didn't know what instructions to give. Usually Canelo Alvarez will be screaming out instructions. Like when his other boy fought, I'm not sure what his name is, he fought on DAZN. He was screaming out instructions the whole fight. He was fired up. Even though his homeboy was getting beat, it didn't stop Canelo from giving out instructions. But if you peep against Shakur Stevenson, Canelo was puzzled. He was as clueless as Oscar Valdez. He was like, man, Oscar, don't even look at me. I'm as clueless as you are. I don't know what the hell he doing. I've been there, done that when I fought Floyd Mayweather. Why do you think I started the NBF franchise? The NBF league in the sport of boxing. But more importantly, when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, what you guys have to realize, he grew up watching his favorite fighters lose to the fighters on the coincidental list. I always say boxing is built on nationality and pride. So when Canelo grew up watching his favorite fighters lose to these fighters on the coincidental list, you guys could check the stats. You guys could do the homework. 99% of all fighters, they lost for sure to an undefeated Black American fighter or to a Black fighter, period. But more importantly, they lost their undefeated record to a fighter on the coincidental list. Chavez Sr., Barrera, Canelo Alvarez, that's just few names that come to mind. They lost their undefeated record to fighters on the coincidental list. So Canelo knows the pattern. Matter of fact, it happened to him. So that's why he chose this path of creating the NBF league in the sport of boxing, because what's understood don't have to be explained. Just like basketball, the best athletes in basketball are the Black athletes, just like it is in boxing. So what Canelo decided to do, he decided to eliminate them from the race. So he only decided to race against Europeans and then claim he's the fastest man in the world, but he won't race against the Devin Haney's, the Shakur, the Charlo, the Andre. He won't race against them guys, but he claims he's the fastest. Meanwhile, they the fastest when it comes to their speed, when it comes to their running. So is Canelo really the fastest in the world? Of course not, because he doesn't race against the fighters on the coincidental list. It's an NBF league, which is what you talked about. See, Floyd Mayweather changed the game like you talked about, because he fought the best and beat the best, but he kept his undefeated record at the same time, right? That's how he became so popular.
Yeah.
That's why he sold all these pay-per-views. Floyd didn't just sell all these pay-per-views because people liked him. Nah, of course not. People tuned in because he
they want to see the best lose.
Yeah, he fought the best every time, and they really thought he was gonna lose, so they tuned in. But he beat him with ease. That's why even Mike said, I don't like Floyd. I got to give him his credit. Every time I told him fight somebody, he went out there and fought him and he watched him. That's what he told Jermell Charlo during the podcast. So my point is, Canelo Alvarez, on the other hand, he does the exact opposite. When we tell him fight Charlo, fight Andre, fight Benavidez, payday.
No, he called them boring. Payday.
Horrible fighter. Then he fight IV.
What does a payday mean? Like,
let me ask you this question. If Canelo always says payday, why is he turning down his biggest paydays though? Against Benavidez, Errol Spence, and Charlo, Andre, for his biggest payday, for his biggest legacy fights at the same time.
Yeah.
If it's all about payday, right? How come Canelo turns down his biggest paydays?
I mean, honestly, from my point of view, when it comes to that situation in itself, it just made clear sense. Let's forget about it. Like, if we're really talking about it, 154, he lost to Mayweather. So his legacy in 154 is nothing.
If you pay attention to Canelo's legacy, first of all, when he fought for a vacant belt at 154, he was ranked number 4. He fought for the WBC vacant belt against the fighter who wasn't even ranked, Ricky Hatton brother. Listen, he wasn't ranked at 154. Ricky Hatton, brother, wasn't even ranked at
No, he
147.
moved up in weight.
Yeah, he moved up in weight, and he wasn't even ranked at the division that he moved up from, 147, right? He fought him. Marquez sued the WBC for that type of corruption. People don't talk about that, but more importantly, he lost to Floyd.
Oh,
Lara. He
Yeah.
lost to Floyd. He lost to Lara, moved up. Got caught taking steroids. Arguably lost to Triple G twice. Then moved up to 168 and stole David Benavidez's belt. And he haven't fought Benavidez to this day. Matter of fact, he turned down his biggest payday yet to Benavidez. He turned down Undisputed
Yeah, and
against
on
Andre.
top of that, why would he not fight Benavidez?
Because he don't
Benavidez
fight
is literally
Mexicans. He don't fight. He only fight Europeans. He told you.
Exactly.
I don't fight Mexicans.
Literally.
I don't fight Mexicans. He literally volunteered
No,
the
he
information.
fights Chavez Senior's son, who everyone knows is a joke in boxing. He made that fight so serious, like, oh, this means a lot to me, and this is a fight that's important to my race. And I'm like, bro, no one cares about Chavez. Chavez Senior even said it in public that Chavez Jr. is a joke. So why would you even take that fight?
Just like they discrediting Shakur now. They saying Valdez was too big. I heard that Valdez said Shakur was too big. But it's so crazy. Old media was painting the narrative leading up to the fight that Shakur was too big when Valdez, a fight ago, took steroids in order to make weight. He admitted that he's struggling to make 130 pounds, where he literally got caught taking Phentermine trying to make weight. He a weight bully, if anything. So how is a guy like Shakur Stevenson that just moved up from 126 to 130 pounds, all of a sudden now it's too big for a guy that can't even make weight in Oscar Valdez? They always find that nigga.
Hey, Akhi, he can't. But he can't even say, Shakur was too big, because let's go to his last two opponents. Robertson Conceicao and Miguel Berchelt are both bigger than Shakur Stevenson. There was never no, oh, they're too big when you're beating me to.
Yeah,
when you got the home cooking against Robertson Conceicao, when you tested positive for PED, you beat him. He was the bigger fighter, and you didn't say he was too big. When Miguel Berchelt had that come forward Mexican style that allows you to counterpunch and knock him out cold, he's bigger than Shakur. He's 5'10". To be exact, Miguel Berchelt is the same size as Mario Barrios, who fought Tank at 140, then fought Keith Thurman at 147. Same exact build as Mario Barrios. But he's not too big because you beat him. But now all of a sudden, Shakur beats you, and he's smaller than both of those two guys. But now your excuse is, oh, he's too big. What? I mean, come on, man. I mean, excuses, man. Let's stop making them, bro. Let's just keep it real.
Skills pay the bills. Canelo was too big for Floyd Mayweather, and what did Floyd do? He beat down a 15 pounds bigger than him opponent in Canelo, who was entering his prime with 43 fights at 23 years old. Meanwhile, Floyd was 36, a grandpa, 15 pounds smaller than Canelo, and still beat his ass.
It took him to school. Yeah. It took him to school, baby.
Skills pay the bills.
You know, we both know that's the MBF, man. I mean, like you said before in numerous videos, Eddie Ramos up blocking for him while he's running from the Charlos and the Andres and everything, man. You know, it's just what it is out here, man. It's unfortunate. In my opinion, Canelo's not pound for pound, but he got accolades, so everybody wants to give him that. Old media wants to give him that, but you know, shout out to you and the new media who call it how it is and tell the truth.
Appreciate you, brother. You know, one thing we do know when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, he turned down his biggest paydays to fight the fighters on the coincidental list. You know, he choosing and picking these weakest opposition. They say, oh, at the end of the day, it's business. Old media, that is. They say when it comes to Canelo fighting these guys. What they mean by that, they mean, yeah, it's business. Fighting the fighters on the coincidental list is bad business, because even though it's the biggest payday, even though it's the biggest money fight, even though it's the biggest legacy fight, however, it's bad business because Canelo, you could lose. That's why it's bad business. See, they be telling on themselves without even realizing it. But yeah, fighting the unknown Bivol is good business because he a fighter on the hope list, and Canelo, you got a better chance of beating him. That's what they indirectly saying when they mention these things. I mean, it's so crazy because the truth will come out eventually, some way, somehow. Canelo own trainer Eddie Reynoso said that, quote, African Americans are the most complicated fighters.
Now listen.
African American fighters are the most difficult. They the most complicated to beat. And that's why Canelo avoids every single one of them, from Charlo to Andre, so on and so forth. That's what we saw on display when Valdez fought Shakur, and that's what we saw on display when Canelo fought Floyd.
Oh, this is the thing. Like, I'm Afro-Latino. My father's black. My mom's Puerto Rican. So I've been around the boxing scene since like the late '90s, and for the most part, like the route that Canelo has been taking, like you can see, like with Floyd, it's like so night and day. Like Floyd literally had to grind and get to a position where he can call himself the best. Moving forward, Canelo sets this precedent, creates that precedent where we won't get the best fights, and then it's going to be harder for the black fighters who are really good to move up. Because let's be real, how do black fighters get to the top of their level? They get to the top of their level by beating the top elite Hispanic, Latino, Latin America fighters. So if these fighters are saying we don't want to go in there, we're going to make it harder, then to me, it sets a bad precedent for the future of boxing.
I mean, and a lot of people don't give credit to Terrence Crawford. The lawsuit definitely played a major role because the lawsuit opened the doors for Shakur because Bob was now forced to do something he didn't want to do. That's why he walked out of the stage from the press conference and stuff like that. So it's all of the above. It's Canelo, his team telling Valdez to do the right thing. And then, of course, Terrence Crawford lawsuit.
It's setting a bad precedent because, once again, like I said, I hate saying this, but Canelo has not improved since he fought Mayweather. Has not improved from that situation. He has not become a better fighter. And everyone just believes he's unbeatable. No, the real thing is he's really setting himself up against fighters who he knows he has the ultimate advantage over. That's not competitive. And everyone's like, yeah, he's defeating these guys. So look what happened with Shakur Stevenson versus Valdez. Look what people are saying on the internet. Because Shakur Stevenson didn't knock this guy out, oh, he don't have killer instinct. He don't have this. The guy's from Brick City North. So it's like, ultimately, like, what are people saying? Shakur is not a top elite type fighter because he didn't go in there and just do wars. And the boxers, who literally stay up, train, to specialize and build their craft are now being called boring. And that's like the term in itself is race predicated. And it's like getting to the point where I'm like, all right, Canelo Alvarez is creating an environment that's not conducive to good boxing.
First of all, the question should be, why didn't Oscar Valdez go out on his shield? Because if Oscar was willing to go out on his shield in order to win, Shakur Stevenson would have knocked him out. But he chose to fight to survive. So, of course, Shakur Stevenson was going to go the distance. But more importantly, they try to change the narrative that we want to see a war, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, or at least the night, they always brag about Willie Pep moving for a whole round, not throwing a single punch and not getting hit the entire round, but he won the round. If any fighter on the coincidental list does that today, they're going to call him boring for the rest of his career. So we clearly see the double standards.
Well, tell me, so like, what's the difference now from like your era to today? Like, what's the difference? Is it because of the promoters, the TV networks that everybody not matching up?
Yourself.
No one was afraid of anyone. Everyone really believed they can beat him.
But it's a business, more business,
Yeah,
it's more money than ever before.
Floyd Mayweather changed the game up, and when he turned into the pretty boy.
Yeah, that was cool too. But he had to get in that ring and fight too. He had to fight the best competitor. He wiped everybody out. And that's why he's who he is. He beat everybody. He beat everybody I thought would give him a chance. Mm-hmm. He's wiped everybody out. Nobody can even match him. The best. He didn't pick guys. He took the best. Yeah. Even the guys I picked against him, he beat everybody, made everybody wrong.
Right.
And that's why he's who he is. Yeah, but Floyd, Floyd's just a bad nigga. Even though people don't like him, they got to give him his fucking praise.
We like him.
You got to give him his praise.
He just